Well, hello retro game players. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Marcus. I just want to share with you guys this shelf I'm building. The one behind me is fully assembled, and this is 8 feet long, and it has 9 shelves. So quite a bit of space for DVDs and games. There is a little void in the middle for a support beam, but that's not very big. I found this plan by Googling, like, I can't remember what it was, like high capacity DVD shelf, and I found these plans, but it was really just you know, someone doing what I'm doing. So I figure, hey, this is my version. It's a little adjusted for video game height, and yeah. So anyway, I built this one, and I've actually built 2 others based off the same kind of plan. It's real simple. It requires, like, I don't know, $60 in wood, something like that. It's really cheap, maybe even less. Maybe it's like $50 in wood. You just use pine or blued pine is what I actually bought for some of this stuff, so it just looks kind of stained almost. You don't have to sand it. It's basically ready to go. But yeah, this is pretty crazy. I just want to show how to build it in case you're interested, because it is high capacity. So here we go. Alright, so there's a better shot of the existing shelf. You can see it back there. It's huge. And that's kind of the basic construction. You can see there's just 2 screws in each board on either side. So then if you go here, basically the bottom is just one 8-foot board that goes across. That's a 4-inch board. I think it actually measures it like 3.5 inches or something. And then this is a 6-inch, so they're all 1x, so it's like a 1x6 is your support, one on either side. So, you know, 1x6 there. Again, I think it's like 5.5 inches or something. And then you want 9 of these 4-inch boards, and or 8 or whatever. You can adjust this however tall. I actually had to trim that to about 7 feet, I think. So on the bottom shelf, what I did to measure that is I just took a loose board and put it underneath like that on the side, and then I actually used some clamps to kind of help support the end beam while I pre-drilled it. Definitely want to pre-drill, and then I use these screws, which are like the tech screws or whatever that's called, and they're 2.5 inch. I just think these look kind of cool, so that's why I use them, and they seem to grip pretty good. I think they're like deck screws, decking and stuff like that. In the middle I have just some like feet, you know, like 2 little support feet, and they're gluing right now with Gorilla Glue. So that's gonna just kind of hold those together. You can use screws if you want. I actually have done that on a previous shelf. Okay, so now I've got 4 or 5 shelves going on, which is great. I can show you the procedure for each one. But yeah, again, the bottom one, just allow like 1 board space. Still letting those glue. I have 2 like feet there on the bottom, and then every single shelf I do this same procedure, so it's just easier to show it on the old tripod here at this height. But yeah, so basically I mentioned that each shelf is slightly sloped. So one way you could do that is you could take a level, you know, and then just check the bubble and just make sure that it's, you know, slightly off one side, and that's fine. You can do it that way. But what I'm doing now is I just take a DVD and I set it on there, and you can see that there's like a gap, or an angle I should say, so from top to bottom. And so anyway, that gives me my slope. So I kind of just have that particular angle sort of memorized. But if I want, I can definitely use the you know, the level. Okay, so here's what I do for the next step is I take a standard clamp and I put this side here like that, like right on top of the DVD. In this case, a Sega CD game. So you can see it fits under there just perfect, right? And so now I do the exact same thing on the other side. So there we go. And I'm not tightening it too tight here. You know, I just want it to, I'm just trying to gauge the height of a DVD. And what's nice about this too is that when you do it this way, I'll show you here in a second, it's the perfect height for like pretty much anything. It'll do like Sega CD or Saturn games too. So okay, so I'm putting the next board down just like that. So you can see once I've got the height done and the clamp on, I can pretty much move the game, and the board is just sitting up here. I put it flush to the front, and then I'll go ahead and drill it. So this is the only part that takes a little practice, I would say, and just making sure that you, like right now, it's actually, I need to get at a straighter angle because the camera, it's a little tricky here. Let's see if I can get it. So I usually check to see if I came through the bottom. I usually don't. That was a little tricky with the camera in front, but anyway, there's the pre-drill, and then this is one of those decking screws, and go ahead and put that in. You don't need to use screws this long, probably, either. You know, you're probably fine with really, I don't know, 2-inch maybe, two and a quarter. Anyway, so once that's on there, pull the clamp back off, and then do the same thing, except this is where I usually use the level because I can turn this right now. So instead, I'll just put the game up. You can see that that slope is a little too high, so I'll just tilt it up like that, and that's about good, I'd say. Again, I can use a level if I want to be real precise with it. But so now I'm just gonna look to the side, and I actually just drill a little lower than the other screw. And then add one more. So that side is secure. Once I got that board up, I can do the same thing, get my height going, put this up. This just gives me the height for the next board, so it rests up there. But yeah, here's a Sega CD or a Saturn game. You can see it will totally clear up here. So there's a Saturn game, you can see plenty of room. So I like being able to do that, you know, have the Sega Saturn or a Genesis or whatever DVDs. But yeah, the amount of space that this thing will have is going to be a lot. So that's 7 feet. Again, this is the 8 feet one. So pretty big. Anyway, I'm going to keep building it. The other thing I'll tell you too is these weights that I put on while it's gluing those 2 feet on the bottom. It also helps the thing from tipping forward, because if you look here, you'll see that the boards are, you know, inside a little bit. So it's like, it does get kind of front heavy, you know. But as you can see, it really looks good as far as the shelf, you know. I mean, like, even though there's a gap back there, they just rest on the wall. So this really wouldn't be the best bookshelf if you don't have a wall to lean it up against, you know, because then your stuff would just be balancing on these skinny boards. I still have to add a center brace. You can see here's a center brace right there, which goes up. So that goes all the way down, and I usually just put things in there or whatever. But anyway, those weights help keep the thing straight up and down so it doesn't fall over. You can see how high it is. So here it is, pretty much assembled. One thing that changed as I went is that my height was a little taller because I wanted to accommodate Sega CD and Sega Saturn games. So when I got to the top, I just boxed it in. I didn't add another shelf. So you can see the one that's got the N64 games actually has a little space and I can put stuff up there. This one is just sort of boxed in, which is actually fine because I can still put some things up above it, like manuals or whatever. So everything went fine. You know, it's very close to being done. The only thing I have to do now is put this support on the back, and the way it works is I cut it just to the height of that top board. So whatever that top shelf is, like that one back there, I make it that height. But since this one's, you know, full size to the ceiling, that's where it goes. And then I'll put one screw on the back on each board. So I'll move this thing around to the back, which, you know, it will fit in there because, you know, obviously there's room. We'll see if I can do that here. And I do just put it halfway too. So like, I'm sort of just visually looking, but this is kind of how it'll look. So one screw here, one screw there, just all the way up. And that will help it support. And then the only other thing I have to do is take some mounting brackets and I've just got 2 of them, and I'll mount it to the wall. And that will just help it hold. So just 2 mounting brackets up top. I'll show you the other one. I got a little different mounting brackets on this one this time, but there's the way the other one works. Real simple, but yeah, I've got a little bit different ones this time. Okay, so the shelf is now completed. You can see that back piece is on there. I try and chose a pretty nice board for that one since it will be kind of exposed, I guess. Yeah, so here's what it looks like next to the other shelf, and then obviously some Saturn games. You can see height wise it's just perfect. And it does, you know, I haven't put the brackets to hold it against the wall, so once I do that, that top part will be stuck to the wall. But yeah, I think it looks good. It's a little bit more fitting for, you know, bigger games like Saturn and Sega CD, but also holds DVDs just fine. So anyway, there you go, guys. I hope that was useful. Again, the boards you need are 2 6-inch or 1x6s. So one on the end over there, and then one on this end. So 2 1x6s, and then however many shelves you want to go up and down, and those can be 8-foot 1x4s. And then 1 back brace, which I did a 1x4. You might be able to do a 1x2. I just think the 1x4 is fine. I don't mind sacrificing a little bit for extra support. I also have made this in a bookshelf, you know, style, which everything is just thicker, and it's a huge bookshelf that holds books too. So in that case, you definitely want to use the longer screws. Anyway, there you go, guys. I hope that is helpful to you if you're going to look for some kind of solution. Like I said, it's a huge length of shelf. I mean, you can see what that kind of looks like. So the amount of games or DVDs is pretty massive. Here's a different shot of the old shelf, and this is the new one, now filled up, which looks pretty good. I have to go through a bunch of those. If you missed that last video, that was the pickup. Actually, those are all mine, the Sega CD and Saturn games, and then pretty much every Genesis game on that side is what I got. So I have to go through and figure out what the duplicates are. But anyway, that's what that shelf looks like. Looks pretty good, I think. So yeah, 8-foot, and then this one's 7-foot. It's a lot of media, you know, even if it's DVDs or PS2 games or anything. It's pretty huge Alright, thanks really for watching, you guys. Until next time, you know what to do. You keep that shit retro by building yourselves some game shelves later on.